No map, no compass, no GPS. No little blue dot telling you where you are. Just you, standing on a beach, staring at the horizon. And somehow, humans still found their way across entire continents, across oceans, across deserts that all looked the same in every direction. So what did they actually have? Here's the popular assumption. They stayed close to home. They followed rivers. And when they did wander further, they mostly got lucky. That's wrong. Almost backwards, actually. Humans didn't need a map. They had something better. They had the landscape itself, memorized down to the smallest detail. Think about why maps exist in the first place. A map is a shortcut, a compressed version of information you don't already have in your head. But if you've spent your entire life in one landscape, learning it from people who spent their entire lives in it before you don't need the shortcut. You already have the information. You don't draw a map of your own bedroom. Same idea, just scaled up to an entire continent. And this isn't ancient theory. People who still live in highly mobile, traditional environments today show it firsthand. Point toward a location after hours of unfamiliar terrain, and an experienced navigator can often place themselves on the landscape with unnerving accuracy. Not because their brains are built differently. Because their brains are actually used for this. Yours probably hasn't been since the last time your GPS died. Now let's talk about how they actually did it. On land, it wasn't follow that weird-looking rock. Skilled navigators read the landscape like a page of text. Which way the wind bends a tree. What plants grow in what soil. Where water pools after rain. The angle of a valley. Every detail told you something about the details around it. The land wasn't scenery. It was information, constantly talking. At night, the sky took over. Stars move in patterns predictable enough to set your watch by, if watches had existed. Learn those patterns, and the night sky becomes a compass with thousands of working parts. In the northern hemisphere, Polaris barely moves at all while everything else rotates around it. One fixed point of light. That's all you needed to know which way was north for thousands of years, before anyone thought to put a needle in a case. But the story that should genuinely stop you mid-scroll is Aboriginal Australia. Some Aboriginal Australians didn't draw their map. They sang it. Songlines are oral routes across the landscape. The words and the sequence of a song encoding landmarks, waterholes, and dangerous ground. Get the order right, and the song walks you across country you've never physically seen. Get it wrong, and you can end up lost somewhere with no water for days. That's not a story. That's a working navigation system, running on memory and rhythm instead of ink. The landscape wasn't just somewhere you traveled through. It was something you could recite. Now let's go to the ocean, because this is where it gets almost unbelievable. Polynesian navigators crossed thousands of miles of open Pacific with no modern instruments at all. Not drifting, aiming. At islands that were, in the middle of that much open water, basically a single grain of sand in a very large, very wet desert. How? They read the ocean like a dashboard. Stars for direction. The sun by day. Ocean swells that carried information about land they couldn't see yet, bending and shifting shape long before any coastline appeared. Clouds that sat differently over islands than over open water. Seabirds whose flight paths pointed straight back to a nesting island, like a compass with wings. Even land you couldn't see could disturb the water around it, and a trained navigator could feel that disturbance under the hull. Picture standing on a canoe in the middle of the Pacific, nothing but water in every direction, and realizing the waves under your feet are quietly telling you exactly where land is. Some traditional navigators even described it as though the canoe stood still, and the ocean, the islands, the entire horizon moved past them instead. Not you traveling through the world sliding by while you hold your position at the center of it. That's not poetry. That's an entire mental model for tracking your position across weeks of open water, with nothing solid to hold on to the whole way. Now go even further, to the Arctic, where there are no trees, no rivers, sometimes no landmarks at all. Just white, in every direction, forever. Traditional Inuit navigators read the snow itself. Wind carves ridges into it called sastrugi, and those ridges always point the same way the prevailing wind blows. When the entire world looks identical, the smallest difference becomes the only thing that matters. The angle of a ridge, the shape of a drift, the way snow has been pushed, not fallen. To us, meaningless. To them, a compass under their feet. Even the sound of ice underfoot carried information. Different densities, different ages, different safety. And here's the part that's easy to miss in all of this. None of these techniques worked alone. Navigation wasn't one trick. It was hundreds of small observations, stacked and cross-checked against each other. Stars gave direction, wind gave confirmation, plants gave water, birds gave land, waves gave distance, and an entire community remembered all of it, generation after generation, without writing a single word of it down. There's proof this actually worked too, and it's sitting in the ground. Archaeologists have found materials like obsidian and specific shells hundreds of miles from where they naturally occur, moved by people who had to know exactly how to get there and exactly how to get back. Not once, by accident. Repeatedly, on purpose. That's not survival. That's a functioning route. So here's the real answer. Humans didn't travel without maps. They carried the map inside them, built from memory, sky, wind, water, waves, and thousands of years of people paying close attention and passing it on. We didn't invent navigation when we invented the compass. Humans had already been navigating for tens of thousands of years before that. The compass just made it easier. GPS made it effortless. And somewhere in between, we quietly stopped needing to read the world around us at all.